Hey guys, it's Amanda, and today I wanted to talk about my favorite Jane Austen novel. I'm going to be doing a full video this month on my channel, at least I'm planning on it, talking about all of the novels, but I wanted to go in detail to talk about my favorite Jane Austen novel. Well, my second favorite, because my favorite is a fan favorite. It's gotten a lot of notoriety because it's a very, very, very popular book, and by all means it deserves to be. But I want to talk about my second favorite Jane Austen novel because I think it's extremely underrated. And when I was reading through her novels for the first time, I was surprised by this one because I was kind of nervous because there are two novels that people don't really talk about. And the first one I read, I kind of understood why. I read it as a love story, and it should not be read as a love story in my opinion. I think it's a brilliant book, but if you read it as a love story, it is rather disappointing. So I was a little bit nervous to read the second one people didn't talk about, because this one I had heard even less about, and there are even less adaptations. It's probably her least adapted book, so I was very nervous to read it, and then I was really surprised that it ended up being one of my favorites, and it is Northanger Abbey. There's so much that's good about this book. First of all, it is one of the shortest books. I believe it is the shortest or the second shortest next to Persuasion, which is pretty short for a Jane Austen book. Could it have been written better? Could it have been longer? Probably. But I was very intrigued by it because it was giving Gothic novel, and I love that. I love Gothic novels. I'm trying to find the page. I have a few things I want to read to you guys from here. I personally think this has the best love interest. The best love interest besides Mr. Darcy. I honestly almost want to say that he's a better love interest than Mr. Darcy. I think Mr. Darcy goes through great character development, and he is one of my favorite characters in all of Austen's works. But I think Henry Tilney is a great man. He's so funny. He's so charming. He is very ahead of his time when it comes to women, respecting women, women's rights. He talks about fashion. He really cares about his sister. He isn't sexist like a lot of men. There's this one character in the book named Mr. John Thorpe. He makes you so mad. I told one of my friends, when you read this, you are not gonna like this man. And then she texted me like, oh my gosh, I hate this man. I hate this man. He's so, oh my gosh. Hey, editor Amanda here. And as I'm editing this, I just have to say, I recently rewatched Northanger Abbey, the adaptation, and I watched it with my dad for the first time. My mom and I have seen it before, but he hasn't. And he also really hated John Thorpe. Every time he came on screen, my dad had a visceral reaction. He was so disgusted by this man. So it's a universal experience. You will not like John Thorpe, and if you do, But just Henry compared to him, Henry's a breath of fresh air. He's so funny. He's also very considerate. He's very kind. And he is a clergyman, which Jane Austen, her father was a religious, I don't know if he was a rector or a vicar, like he worked at a church for a living. And so she has a lot of characters in her books that are clergymen. Like Mr. Collins from Pride and Prejudice is the most notable one, but he's silly and extravagant and kind of like, ugh, Mr. Collins. And then in Emma, there is a Mr. Elton, who is a similar kind of figure. Ugh, Mr. Elton. And then in Sense and Sensibility, you get Edward, where he's a nice clergyman, but he doesn't really have that much character development compared to the other characters of the book. And then you get Edmund in Mansfield Park, who's a clergyman, and he's supposed to be a nicer one of the clergymen, but he annoyed me a lot. I think he's probably one of my least favorite characters of all of Austen's books. So to have Henry Tilney be a clergyman and be one of the best characters, it just shows that she definitely had a range when it came to clergymen. Like, you have these gross people like Mr. Collins, like women, if they reject you, that means that they just want you to propose again because they're in love with you. And then you have Henry Tilney, who is just, he's so kind. I'm rereading it right now. I'm almost done with my reread. I started a few days ago, and I'm on chapter 6. I'm on chapter 26. What I was saying is, Henry Tilney, he's just so kind and very compassionate and very caring and very clever and smart, but also he reads novels and he likes fashion. He's just the best. He's the best. And I want to read a few quotes that I took on my phone. All right. So here's one of the first times we meet Henry Tilney in the beginning of the book. He goes, "And are you altogether pleased with Bath?" And Catherine goes, "Yes, I like it very much." And then he goes, "Now I must give one smirk, and then we may be rational again." He's so funny and charming. And then Catherine turned away her head, not knowing whether she should venture to laugh. And then he goes, "I see what you think of me," said he gravely. "I shall make but a poor figure in your journal tomorrow." She's like, "My journal?" Some people think classic books are they can't be funny, but I think they can be really hilarious. I feel like a lot of people that dislike Northanger Abbey say that Catherine is very immature and naive, but that's why I like her, and I feel like a lot of people I know that criticize her are older. I read this book when I was 19, and I'm 20 now. And when you're a young girl being thrown into the world, you're going to be naive about certain things, and I don't think Catherine's stupid. Some people think she's stupid or she's too trusting, but this is her first time ever leaving her home. She's a middle-class girl, so she doesn't go to London, she doesn't get invited out much, and her family friends offer to take her because they don't have kids and they wanted to go out of town, and so this is her first chance to be in the world. All of her knowledge of the world is from novel reading, but she doesn't really know what to expect in the world. All she knows is her family and what she's read. So of course she's going to be naive to certain things. There isn't the internet, and she's a young girl coming of age, and I think a lot of people criticize her too harshly and they kind of make fun of her like she's so stupid or da da da, but I think yes, her naivety sometimes is a little bit too forthcoming, but I think it's necessary, and I don't think she's stupid because when she finds out that she was super wrong about something, she feels embarrassed and ashamed, and that's what it's like becoming an adult. For example, I'm going to read a quote from Miss Thorpe, Isabella Thorpe, who is her first friend outside of her family. I think Isabella is a pick-me girl in reality. I feel like I've been in Catherine's shoes a lot when I was growing up, where Catherine is this shy girl who doesn't really know too much, and Isabella's this really pretty girl who's a little bit older than her and gets all the boys, and she kind of treats Catherine as like, "Oh, Catherine, you're so pretty. Oh, Catherine, you're so this," and you think she's a girl's girl, but really she's just doing that for show to look good in front of other guys or to look good in front of people. Like, you're the cute shy friend that's what I get from Isabella. She's all nice to Catherine, but the moment a guy shows up, she's like, "Oh, we're gonna stick by each other the whole night. I don't want to be away from you at the party, Catherine. Oh, this party where we don't know anybody at." And then she sees a guy and she leaves Catherine for 2 hours. That is what Isabella's like. Basically, Isabella's talking about this one friend that she has that is so beautiful, talking good about this girl, which later in the book, she totally like makes fun of this girl. So like I said, she's kind of a pick-me girl. But then to Catherine, when she first meets her, she says, "I think her as beautiful as an angel, and I'm so vexed with the men for not admiring her. I scold them all amazingly about it." And Catherine goes, "Scold them? Do you scold them for not admiring her?" And Isabella goes, "Yes, that I do. There is nothing I would not do for those who are really my friends. I have no notion of loving people by halves. It is not my nature. My attachments are always excessively strong." But then she's completely not a good friend. She completely abandons Catherine at big parties and for guys' attention, and she has hollow compliments. She abuses Catherine's trust to try to get her to do things that are wrong or that make her uncomfortable or that ruin her reputation or other friendships because she knows what to say to her. Isabella's not a nice person, but because she's pretty and she's older, Catherine's like, "Well, she's pretty and she's older and she was nice to me, so she must be a true friend," because she's never had a friend before outside of her family. And I feel like people think she's naive and stupid for that, but if you're a young girl and she's your first friend, like I've had a lot of friends freaking backstab me when I was young growing up. Isabella's just one of those girls that Catherine thought she had a friend in. It turned out she didn't. Let me find some other quotes here. Back to Henry Tilney. I love this man so much. So John Thorpe is Isabella's brother. They both suck. And John Thorpe makes fun of women for reading books. Women should read informational books, not novels, not fill their head with novels, and like puts Catherine down, even though he claims like he's in love with her, which Catherine has no idea that he has a crush on her, but he's not helping his case by making fun of women for wanting to read novels and making them seem like they're idiots for doing so. So then when Catherine hangs out with Henry Tilney, she starts talking about this mystery book that she really likes, The Mysteries of Udolpho, and she kind of gets embarrassed because she realizes she's rambling. How relatable is that? I think Catherine's a relatable character. And she says, "But you never read novels, I dare say." And he says, "Why not?" And Catherine says, "Because they're not clever enough for you. Gentlemen read better books." And Henry goes, "The person, be it gentleman or lady, who is not pleasure in a good novel must be intolerably stupid. I have read all Mrs. Radcliffe's works, and most of them with great pleasure. The Mysteries of Dolfo, when I first begun it, I could not lay down, and then it goes on. But he's so funny, and he's also so understanding. He talks about how much he knows about fashion, and he learned it because of his sister. His sister doesn't have any friends, and their mother's dead, but she likes fashion, so he knows fashion. He's such a great guy. I freaking love Henry Tilney, and I think he's so underrated. No one ever talks about him. I think he is one of the best Austen characters ever. I actually decided to reread Northanger Abbey because I was reading this murder mystery series about Jane Austen characters. In the third book, they brought Henry Tilney back, and I thought that the author wrote him so well, and it made me miss him because he's so charming and so funny. It's funny because I like to say, I think I like Darcy because he's like me. But if I wanted to date somebody like an Austen character, I would date somebody like Henry Tilney. I like the charming, respecting women, very understanding, very funny, very open to hearing you ramble about your hyperfixations kind of man. And Darcy is very awkward and quiet and introverted, and I'm that. I feel like Henry Tilney is like the male version of Elizabeth Bennet, so I think that's why I like him so much. You know, like Darcy needed an Elizabeth, I need a Henry Tilney. Henry Tilney and Elizabeth Bennet are both really witty, and they're both not like the other guys, not like the other girls, in a cool Regency era way, you know? That's what I have to say about this book. It is so good. I think I have another quote that I want to share with you guys that I read today, which inspired my song, Beware of How You Give Your Heart. The direct quote that I took the song title from is from Catherine's brother, James Morland, and he says, "Dearest Catherine, beware how you give your heart, believe me," and etc. Such a good book. Were some parts description heavy? Yes. Were some parts maybe not fleshed out as well, like Miss Tilney's love interest, which was kind of thrown in at the end? Yes. But I think that the book has mystery, which a lot of Jane Austen books don't have. It talks about murder, it talks about ghost stories, but it gives a sense of danger and mystery, but also has comedy and coming of age. And I feel like a lot of young people that are becoming adults that don't really know a lot about the world and don't really know how to thrive in the world could really relate to Catherine. And I think that Henry Tilney is an iconic love interest and probably the best love interest and deserves more recognition. This book is a short read, it's a quick read, it's one of Austen's shortest works, and I think it's extremely underrated and that you should read it.